In the southern tip of India, behind the walls of the richest place of worship on earth, there is a door. It has no lock, no handle, no visible way in. Carved into its stone face are two serpents, coiled and facing each other, as if guarding something that was never meant to be seen. Behind this door sits a chamber the world has never entered. Not the priests, not the kings, not even the highest court in India. They found 5 other vaults in this temple. When they opened them, they uncovered gold and jewels worth an estimated $20 billion, the single largest treasure ever discovered in human history. And that was only 5 of the vaults. This is the 6th. They call it Vault B. And to this day, no one has dared to open it. The men who tried to force the question died. The court that ordered it opened quietly backed away. And the royal family who has protected this secret for 250 years say the same thing they have always said. Some doors are sealed for a reason. Today, we are going to stand in front of that door. We'll separate what is proven from what is whispered. We'll follow the treasure, the court case, and the strange deaths that surround it. And we'll ask the question that India itself has never fully answered. What is behind the door that cannot be opened? Welcome back to Stories of Wisdom. Stay with me to the end, because what they believe is sealed inside this vault is stranger than any treasure. To understand the vault, you first have to understand the temple that hides it. Its name is Sri Padmanabhaswamy Temple. It stands in the city of Tiruvananthapuram, Trivandrum, the capital of the state of Kerala, on the far southern coast of India. The name of the city itself tells you who lives here. Thiruvananthapuram, the city of the sacred serpent Ananta. Inside the sanctum lies the deity the entire temple is built around, Lord Vishnu, in a form called Padmanabha, the one from whose navel the lotus grows. But he is not standing, and he is not seated. He is lying down, asleep. He reclines on the coils of a giant 5-hooded serpent named Adi Shisha, the Endless One, the snake that is said to hold up the universe. From Vishnu's navel rises a lotus, and seated within that lotus is Brahma, the creator himself. This posture has a name, Anantashayanam, the eternal sleep upon the infinite serpent. The idol is so large that you cannot see all of it at once. Devotees view the god through 3 separate doors. The first shows his face and chest, the second his navel and the lotus, the third his feet. To take him in, you must look 3 times. Now hold on to that image. A sleeping god, resting on a serpent, in a city named after that serpent. Because serpents, nagas, are about to appear again and again in this story. On the vault door, in the legends, in the warnings. Nothing here is an accident. This temple is ancient. It is named in texts and hymns that are well over 1,000 years old, sung by the Tamil saint poets who called it one of the holiest homes of Vishnu on earth. Pilgrims have walked to this spot for more than a millennium, and it is not a small temple. Its main tower, the Gopuram, rises 7 stories into the Kerala sky, more than 100 feet of carved stone, covered in thousands of sculpted figures. In front of the sanctum sits a ceremonial hall called the Adikal Mandapam, a platform carved, astonishingly, from a single enormous block of granite. To step inside is to step into another century. There is a strict dress code. Men must remove their shirts and wear a traditional mundu. Women wear a sari. Cameras are forbidden within the sanctum. By tradition, only Hindus pass through the innermost doors. This is not a museum. It is a living temple, run today much as it was 300 years ago. And every single day, the same rhythm repeats. The god is woken. He is bathed, dressed, offered food, and worshipped. And at the end of the day, the god is put back to sleep, a deity treated not as a statue, but as a living king. Because, as you are about to learn, that is very nearly what he legally became. But the temple's real destiny, and its unimaginable wealth, was sealed by a single king and a single, extraordinary decision made in the year 1750. His name was Marthandavarma, and in the 18th century, he was the ruler of the kingdom of Travancore, a powerful, ambitious king who expanded his realm through decades of war until it stretched across the south. By 1750, Marthandavarma stood at the height of his power. He had defeated his rivals. He had even beaten back a European colonial force, one of the very few Indian kings to do so. Everything he had conquered was his. That victory deserves a moment because it is extraordinary. In 1741, on the beach at Calicut, Marthundavarma's army did something almost no Indian ruler of that age managed. They defeated the Dutch East India Company, the most powerful trading empire on the seas, in open battle. The Dutch commander, a man named Eustachius de Lannoy, was captured alive. And here Marthundavarma did something shrewd. Instead of executing his prisoner, he recognized the European's skill, spared him, and put him in charge of modernizing the Travancore army. De Lannoy served his conqueror faithfully for the rest of his life, building the disciplined, cannon-armed force that made the kingdom untouchable. This is the mind we are dealing with. Not a nervous, superstitious king, a brilliant, calculating strategist who beat a European superpower and then hired its general. Remember that, because when a man like this chooses to sign away his entire kingdom to a god and lock its wealth beneath a temple, he is not acting out of simple fear. He has reasons he weighed carefully and never fully explained. And then he did something that no conqueror is supposed to do. He gave it all away. In a ceremony called the Tripedonum, Marthundavarma surrendered his entire kingdom, his lands, his wealth, his throne, to the deity of this temple, to Lord Padmanabha, the sleeping god. From that day forward, the king declared that he was no longer the true ruler of Travancore. The god was. He, the king, would rule only as the god's servant, his steward on earth. He took a new title, and every ruler of his dynasty after him would carry it too. Padmanabhadasa, the servant of Padmanabha. Think about what that means in practice. From 1750 onward, every treasure the kingdom gathered, every offering, every tribute, every gift of gold from a devotee or a merchant or a visiting royal, none of it belonged to the king. All of it belonged to the god. And where do you keep the wealth of a god? You place it at his feet. You seal it beneath his temple. And you never, ever spend it. For over 2 centuries, that is exactly what happened. Generation after generation, the offerings flowed in and went down into a network of stone chambers built into the very foundations of the temple. Granite vaults, sealed shut, layered one legend on top of another. The people of Travancore knew the vaults were there. They simply believed they were untouchable, protected not by guards, but by the god himself. And so the treasure sat in the dark, growing, waiting, for 250 years, until one man decided that somebody, finally, ought to check what was inside. His name was T.P. Sundararajan. He was not a treasure hunter. He was not an enemy of the temple. He was a former police officer and a lawyer, a devout man who lived, quite literally, in the shadow of Padmanabhaswamy. He could see its tower from his home. But Sundararajan had a worry, and it would not leave him alone. If this temple held that much wealth, and everyone in Trivandrum whispered that it did, then who was actually watching over it? What was really down in those vaults? Was it safe? Was it counted? Or could it quietly disappear, piece by piece, with no one ever knowing what had been lost? So in the late 2000s, Sundararajan did something no devotee had done in 250 years. He went to court. He filed a petition asking a simple, radical question, that the temple's secret vaults be opened, inspected, and their contents recorded, so that this priceless heritage could be protected. To many, it felt like a violation. You do not open the treasury of a sleeping god. You do not disturb what the kings themselves left sealed. The temple's traditional guardians resisted, and it did not happen quickly. Sundararajan's petition first went to the Kerala High Court, which ruled that the state itself should step in and open the vaults. The royal family fought back hard. They insisted that they, as the hereditary servants of Padmanabha, were the rightful guardians, that this was a matter of faith and not administration, and that outsiders had no business prying into the god's treasury. The battle dragged through appeal after appeal, year after year, until it could climb no higher. It landed, at last, in New Delhi, before the highest bench in the land. And finally, it reached the Supreme Court of India. In 2011, the Supreme Court made a historic ruling. It ordered that the vaults beneath Padmanabhaswamy Temple be opened. A 7-member expert committee would go down into the chambers, catalog everything inside, and finally document the wealth that had been hidden for centuries. For the first time in the temple's history, the doors at the bottom of the stairs were going to be broken open and observed by the outside world. The vaults were labeled, simply, with letters. Vault A, Vault B, Vault C, D, E, and F. One by one, the committee began to open them. Nobody, not the lawyers, not the priests, not the historians, was prepared for what came out of the first one. When they opened Vault A, the committee members stepped into a room that had not seen daylight in generations. And it was filled with gold. Not a chest of it, not a corner of it, sacks and piles and heaps of it. Gold coins from empires long gone, Roman coins, coins from Napoleon's era, coins traded across oceans centuries ago, gold necklaces so heavy they had to be lifted with both hands, a golden idol of Vishnu studded with emeralds, a solid gold throne, diamonds, rubies, ceremonial ornaments, sacks of precious stones simply poured into the room and forgotten. There was a chain of gold 18 feet long. There were coconut shells made of pure gold, crusted with rubies and emeralds. There was a golden idol of Vishnu nearly 4 feet tall. Ceremonial vessels of solid gold. Bags of gold coins weighing hundreds of kilograms in total. Some so ancient that historians had to be summoned simply to identify which lost kingdom had minted them. Reports spoke of a golden throne, meant for the 18-foot deity himself. Diamonds by the sackful. Precious stones measured not by the carat, but by the sack. To put that scale in perspective, this single temple's documented treasure dwarfs the reserves of entire national banks. It outweighs the endowments of the world's grandest cathedrals and shrines combined. And unlike a bank, none of it was ever meant to move. It was offering. It was devotion, hardened into gold and buried in the dark, gift upon gift upon gift, for 2.5 centuries. As the committee cataloged vault after vault, the numbers climbed into a range that stopped making sense. The most cited estimate for the treasure they documented is around 1 lakh crore rupees. In global terms, somewhere near $20 billion. And here is what you must understand about that number. It is almost certainly far too low. That figure counts only the melt weight of the gold and the raw value of the stones. It does not include the antique value, the fact that many of these objects are thousands of years old, historically priceless, the kind of artifacts that would never actually be sold. The true worth is likely many times higher. Some historians believe it makes Padmanabhaswamy the wealthiest place of worship in the entire world by a wide margin. Overnight, this quiet temple in Kerala became a global headline. The richest treasure ever found, sleeping under the feet of a sleeping god. And you have to picture what was happening above ground while the committee worked below. By the summer of 2011, Padmanabhaswamy was no longer a quiet temple in Kerala. It was the single biggest news story in India. Every channel carried it. Crowds pressed against the gates. Rumors flew faster than facts. That a vault had flooded, that gold was being spirited away in the night, that the true figure was not 20 billion but 100 billion. The committee worked under extraordinary secrecy. No cameras near the vaults. Members sworn to silence. Every single item had to be photographed, weighed, described, and logged. A task so vast it stretched on for weeks, and even then was never fully finished. Some chambers were so tightly packed that simply moving through them was dangerous. And as the count went on, uncomfortable questions began to surface. Were all the items the old records mentioned actually still there? Had anything slipped away in the centuries before anyone was watching? India's former top auditor was eventually brought in to examine how the temple's wealth had been managed, and his conclusions were pointed. The record-keeping, he suggested, was nowhere near what a treasure like this demanded. The age of blind trust was over. For the devout, all of this was painful, their sleeping god reduced to a news ticker and an audit. For the ordinary people of Trivandrum, it was something stranger, a mix of pride and dread. Pride that their god was the richest on earth, and a quiet dread at what all this disturbance might be inviting. Because everyone knew one vault was still to come, the one at the very end. and everyone knew exactly what the priests had said about it. But as the astonishing inventory went on, and vault after vault gave up its secrets, the committee arrived at one final door. A door they had been warned about. A door the priests told them, plainly, not to open. Vault B, before we open, or try to open that door, let me ask you for one thing. If you're still here with me, 18 minutes in, then you're exactly the kind of person this channel is made for. Take 1 second and subscribe to Stories of Wisdom. Every week I dig into one of these mysteries, the temples, the impossible engineering, the things history left half explained. Subscribing is free, and it's the only way YouTube knows to show you the next one. Now, let's go back to the door. Vault B is different from the others. Everyone who has stood before it says so. The other vaults had ordinary doors, iron, granite, sealed but openable. Vault B has 2 doors, one behind the other. And on the innermost door, there are no bolts, no latches, no hinges anyone can find. Instead, there are the 2 serpents, carved into the stone, facing each other, guarding the seam where the door should open. According to belief, this is not decoration. It is a warning. The traditional priests and the elders of the royal family told the committee that Vault B was never meant to be opened by ordinary means. They said it was sealed by something called a Naga Bandham, a serpent bond, a lock that is not mechanical, but spiritual. The legend goes like this. Long ago, holy men, siddhas, sealed this chamber using sound, a specific, secret chant, and the only way to open it safely is to reverse that seal with another chant, the Garuda mantra. Garuda, in Hindu tradition, is the great eagle, the mount of Vishnu, and the eternal enemy of serpents. To open the serpent door, the belief says, you would need a person of the highest spiritual attainment, chanting the Garuda mantra perfectly, a sadhu who, by most accounts, no longer exists. And there is a darker strand to the legend. Accounts passed down in Trivandrum claim that Vault B has been approached before, decades ago, and that those who tried to breach it met with omens they could not ignore. In some tellings, as workers began to pry at the door, snakes appeared from nowhere. In others, sudden illness or unexplained accidents struck those involved, and the work was abandoned, the door hastily resealed, and left alone. Are these stories true? We cannot verify them. They live in that gray country between memory and myth, retold until the original source is lost. But they matter because they are the reason the warning around Vault B is not dismissed as a fairy tale by the people closest to it. To them, this is not one legend. It is a pattern, the same lesson learned again and again by anyone reckless enough to test the serpents. And if you open it any other way, if you take a crowbar or a drill or a torch to that door, without the mantra, the legend is blunt about it. Catastrophe, misfortune that spreads outward from the temple, to the city, to the country. Some versions say the sea itself would rise and swallow the land. Now, I want to be careful here. That is belief. That is legend. It is not proven, and I am not going to pretend that it is. But here is what is not legend. Here is what actually happened next. When it came time to open Vault B, the Supreme Court of India, the same court that had ordered every other vault opened, stopped. They did not order it forced open. They accepted arguments to leave it sealed, pending further study. The most powerful legal authority in a nation of over 1 billion people looked at that door, heard the warnings, weighed the risk, and chose to walk away from it. And the man who had started all of this? The man whose petition opened every other vault? He never saw Vault B opened, because by then, he was already dead. In July of 2011, just as the vaults were giving up their secrets, just as the world learned what lay beneath the temple, T.P. Sundararajan died. The man who had asked the question, the man who forced open the treasure of the sleeping god. He fell ill, and within days, he was gone. To the believers, the meaning was immediate and obvious. He had disturbed what should not be disturbed. He had pulled at the seal, and the seal had answered. Now, I owe you honesty, because this channel is built on it. Sundararajan was an elderly man. He had been unwell. People fall ill and die every day, and grief looks for patterns in tragedy. That is human, and it does not require a curse. But you cannot tell the story of Vault B without telling this part, because it is the moment the legend stopped being ancient history and became something people in Trivandrum felt in their own lifetimes. The timing was too sharp. The man who touched the vaults was buried almost the same week the gold came out of the ground, and his death did something to the case. It cooled it. The urgency drained away. The people who might have pushed hardest to open that final door grew quiet. The royal family renewed their plea, "Leave Vault B alone." The message, spoken and unspoken, was the same. Look what happened. Do not be the next one to test the door. So the great inventory, the largest treasure count in human history, ended not with a triumphant final reveal, but with a door left deliberately shut. A blank space in the record. Vault B, contents unknown, which leaves the only question anyone really cares about. If they never opened it, what does anyone actually think is inside? Before we answer that, understand the strange problem the discovery created. Finding $20 billion is not a blessing. It is a burden, because now you have to protect it. After the inventory, the treasure did not leave. By order of the court, it stayed exactly where it had always been, sealed back into the vaults beneath the temple, still the legal property of the deity. But now the whole world knew it was there. Security tightened. There was talk of modern surveillance, reinforced chambers, strict committees to ensure that not a single coin could ever quietly disappear. And here lies the bitter irony. The very things Sundara Rajan feared, that this wealth might be slowly bled away in secret, was only truly guarded against because he forced it all into the light. And yet, by tradition, the fortune remains unspendable. It is not a fund. It cannot be sold to build hospitals or feed the poor, however tempting that argument becomes. It belongs to the god. To spend it for any worldly purpose would break the vow Marthundavarma made in 1750, the vow every guardian since has sworn to keep. So it sits, counted now, watched now, but still buried, still his, and still, one door among them has never been counted at all. There are, broadly, for answers, and they could not be more different from one another. The first is the simplest. More treasure. If 5 vaults held $20 billion, and Vault B is the oldest and most heavily protected of them all, then perhaps it holds the greatest hoard of the lot, an inner sanctum of wealth so vast the others were merely the overflow. By this thinking, Vault B is not cursed. It is simply the deepest safe, sealed by kings who wanted their most sacred offering closest to the god. The second answer is spiritual. That Vault B is not a treasury at all, it is a shrine, a sealed chamber of pure worship, containing sacred idols and objects so holy that opening it would be a desecration, not a discovery. In this view, the priests are not hiding gold. They are protecting silence. The third answer is the one the historians quietly raise, that there may be nothing dramatic behind Vault B at all, or that it may even have been opened, long ago, by the temple's own custodians, and simply resealed. That the unopenable door is a matter of tradition and jurisdiction, not black magic. A door left shut out of respect, and then wrapped in legend by the generations that came after. Some who studied the temple's records argued exactly this, that Vault B had most likely been opened within living memory, perhaps for maintenance, and that there was never any mechanical mystery to the door at all. In their view, the Nagabandham is a tale that simply grew in the retelling, and the only thing truly sealing Vault B is our own unwillingness to be the person who opens it. And the fourth answer is the strange one, the one that refuses to go away. Some traditional accounts insist that Vault B is not a room, but a barrier, that behind it is not gold and not idols, but a passage, and that this passage is what holds back disaster. There are old beliefs that link the temple's foundations to the sea, and warnings that breaking the final seal would let the waters in. In this version, the serpents on the door are not guarding treasure. They are holding back the ocean. Is that literally true? Almost certainly not. But ask yourself why a belief like that survives for centuries around one specific door, and why, when a modern court had every legal right to open it, they chose not to find out. Let's be practical for a moment. Could Vault B be opened today if a nation truly decided to? Of course it could. This is not the age of crowbars and torchlight. Engineers could scan that door with ground-penetrating radar and map whatever lies behind it without touching a single stone. They could slip a fiber-optic camera through a hairline gap and see inside in perfect clarity. If India's courts and government genuinely wanted to know what Vault B holds, the mystery could be solved in an afternoon, and no serpent, real or spiritual, could stop them. So the real question was never can we, it was should we. And that is far harder than it sounds. Because opening Vault B would settle a mystery, but it would also destroy something. It would take a thing that belongs to faith and hand it to inventory. It would trade wonder for a number. Whatever waits behind that door, the instant we see it, it stops being infinite and becomes finite. A pile of gold, a room of idols, an empty chamber, known, measured, ordinary. There is an idea older than this temple, that some things are more powerful unseen than seen, that a sealed door can hold more meaning than an open one. For 2.5 centuries, Vault B has been a question an entire culture agreed to keep asking and never answer. And perhaps that shared not knowing is itself a kind of treasure, one you cannot melt down or weigh. The people who guard this temple seem to understand that in their bones. When they say some doors are sealed for a reason, they may not mean a curse at all. They may mean something quieter and wiser, that a civilization is allowed to keep one secret from itself, that not every mystery is ours to solve, simply because we finally hold the tools to solve it. We are a species that opens things. It is who we are. We split the atom. We map the genome. We photograph the far side of the moon. Almost nothing stays sealed against human curiosity for long. And yet here, in a temple at the southern edge of India, behind 2 carved serpents, one door has held. Not because we couldn't, because we chose not to. In 2020, the Supreme Court delivered its final major verdict on the temple. It upheld the rights of the old royal family, the descendants of Marthandavarma, the servants of Padmanabha, to continue as the temple's guardians. The treasure of the 5 open vaults remains where it was found, cataloged but untouched, still the property of the deity. Not to be sold, not to be spent, guarded now by security and by law, as well as by faith. And Vault B remains closed, not because it cannot be opened. A modern nation with modern tools could open any stone door it wished. It remains closed because, in the end, everyone with the power to open it decided that some questions are not worth the answer, that there are things a people can choose to leave sealed, out of respect, out of caution, or out of a fear they cannot quite explain even to themselves. 2 carved serpents, a door with no lock, a treasure beyond counting on one side of it, and on the other, a silence that 1 billion people have agreed not to break. Maybe it is gold, maybe it is a god, maybe it is nothing but old stone and older stories. But the most powerful thing about the door that cannot be opened is not what lies behind it. It is that, given every chance to look, we chose not to. Some doors, the guardians say, are sealed for a reason. And this one is still waiting. If you made it all the way here, thank you. Truly, you didn't just watch a video. You sat with a mystery, and that is rare. Do 2 things for me. Subscribe, so the next mystery finds you. And tell me in the comments, if that door were yours to open, would you? Gold beyond imagination on one side, and every warning in history telling you to stop. I'm not sure I could resist. I'm not sure I'd survive it either. I'll see you in the next one. This has been Stories of Wisdom.